Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ingi, for the invitation to share our view about newsprint business. I'm try to focus my presentation on longer-term topics, but naturally, under current circumstances, it's very hard to avoid some of the short-term topics as well. If you put the slides on and go to the first or the second page, let's start from there. Before really starting to present a couple of words, what I mean, who are the we. Communication Papers UPM, at Communication Papers UPM, we have over 200 years of experience in paper manufacturing, and currently we have 14 mills in Europe and North America with a capacity of 7 million tons around. After Kaipola mill closure, 6.3 million tons, and we employ close to 8,000 employees. We are delivering paper globally, and we are very committed to paper. Newsprint capacity specifically after Kaipola mill closure is around 1.3 million tons, and we are having assets in Germany, Finland, Austria, and the UK. As we all know, graphic paper demand is declining, and even more so newsprint demand. If you look at past 5 years, the trend line decline has been about 7% per annum, and from global perspective, and in Europe we have been seeing similar figures. When it comes to China or Americas, the decline has been significantly more. Naturally, this year, the demand decline will be much more severe than in the past years, possibly some 3 times the decline that we have seen in the past, so around 20%. That is how we currently see the decline. But from the trend perspective, we have the famous drivers behind the demand decline, and that is the changing in readership habits, the advertising mix changes, and also the publishing and distribution technology. Print advertising has been losing its share, and also the fact is that publishers have not been able to turn that advertising income to online, and surely but slowly the business models are changing from advertising driven to subscription driven models in the whole world. Digital publishing has been especially successful with the national titles, whereas then when it comes to the regional or local news, those have been much nicely holding in print. Another topic that has been mitigating the demand decline in the past years is the commercial print. It is especially the retail advertising in Central Europe that has been consuming a part of the newsprint paper. Now, if you go to the next page. Well, COVID-19 has had a serious impact on paper demand, and here also on newsprint demand. But demand has behaved very different manner depending on which country we are talking about and also which end use we are talking about. Here on the left-hand side, you see on the x-axis the level of restrictions in different countries, from very unrestricted to severely restricted measures by country, and on the y-axis the demand development of newsprint in Q2 versus the last year Q2. Although there is not a perfect correlation in here, you can clearly see a relation between the lockdown measures and the newsprint demand decline. the advertising or decline in advertising has been the biggest driver of the demand decline. It means less leaflets, less pagination in publications due to less advertising, less free sheets, almost no free sheets in towns, in cities that has a severe down. But then if you look at the circulation figures, here some examples from France and Germany. The first thing you note is that the total circulation has not been going that much down, but and also same applies the print subscriptions both in France and Germany. But what has been declining big time is the kiosk sales. And then on the other hand, the digital subscriptions or digital news circulation that has gone severely up. And as already discussed, I think earlier today, some of that big time of that big part of that will most probably be permanent. Another driver there on the bottom of the page, the German retail sales. Well, illustration how the retail sales has been developing this year, and I think that this reflects quite nicely also what has been the differences between the print advertising demand. Food retail has been quite resilient this year, also in Q2, whereas then some of the non-food advertisings, like in fashion, has been going severely down, and we have been seeing much worse figures in some other countries. Then on the other hand, online, but also cataloger sales has been increasing. If you go now to the next page, well, we have started to see the recovery of the demand after Q2, and already confirmed today, for example, when UPM released its financial results for Q3, where communication papers showed over 10% increase in the deliveries from Q2 to Q3 this year. But of course, we are not back on the original demand levels. And this is how we see the development going forward. This is a conceptual picture reflecting whole graphical paper demand. And we are expecting to see similar type of pattern as we saw after the financial crisis some 10 years ago. Some 30 to 50% of demand actually did recover after the financial crisis, depending on which grade we are talking about. After which we started to see a similar or trend line decline, where we ended up early 2020 before the COVID crisis started. And yes, we see similar type of recovery, only partial recovery happening after COVID crisis, and then the trend line decline continues. Now, how well are the volumes recovering after COVID? It's a million question, and will be dependent on what is the length of the lockdown measures, or what is the length of the pandemic and related lockdown measures, how quickly we are going fully back to offices, how is non-food retail advertising recovery, and what happens to travel, how well it is recovering, and if the travel catalogs are needed again. We have also seen some "We Are Back" campaigns, and of course, if that is happening big time, then the recovery would be better. But as said, we are not expecting to come back to original levels of demand. If we go now back to newsprint business and the nature of the newsprint business, newsprint is by large a regional business. And if you look at the trade flows here compared to demand figures, they are quite limited. Of the big markets, only India is heavily dependent on imports. And well, in Europe also UK is heavily dependent on imports, but those imports are mostly coming from other European countries. The demand has been declining, but so has the capacity. Thank you. and if you look at the past 5 years, the capacity has been even coming down more than the demand. And at the end of the day, it is so, we believe, that only profitable and environmentally sustainable capacity will remain. And in the recent years, what has supported the exit of some of the newsprint capacity is the growth in packaging, especially in containerboard, and also the scarcity of fiber. So newsprint machines have been converted especially to containerboard, and in the areas where there has been good access of fiber. But different companies are having very different strategies in driving the change. And this would take us to the next page. As said, the companies have been taking very different strategies in driving the change, and here illustrated by the capacity management measures of different companies. You can see the top 10 companies in 2014 and also in 2020, and showing also the reduction of capacity. Everybody has been reducing capacity, but with a very different amounts, and now it has resulted, or this has resulted in a situation where the capacity is actually much more fragmented today than what it used to be. Maybe you can go to the one big topic for paper industry and all fiber consuming industry is the scarcity of fiber. And when we talk about more specifically about newsprint, we are talking about the e-inking grade of RCP. The demand supply balance have been continuously tightening, and this is a structural phenomenon in the industry, mostly driven by the growing packaging demand of fiber, declining virgin fiber share in the portfolio, weak municipal collection and sorting efficiency, and then overall weakening of fiber quality. Then in the recent past, in the springtime, there was a real peak in the demand supply balance, mostly driven by increase in packaging use and lack of especially mixed paper and board, recovered paper. Sales prices of newsprint have been volatile and continue to be volatile. The paper is semi-commodity and prices are dictated by the market. Quite frankly, this volatility is sometimes challenging the commitment to the business. The perception is that paper suppliers nor the paper buyers really enjoy this fluctuation or this volatility, but nevertheless, the roller coaster seems to continue. Everything is relative, though. If you press the button once more, if you compare Indian business environment to that of European, you can clearly see that we are living in peace in Europe when it comes to price volatility. Now, a couple of words about UPM strategy then on the next page, how we have been trying to cope with the with the rally of continued demand decline and fluctuating prices, we are here to generate a long-term cash flow, and we have been able to do so in the past 5 years. 2 billion, close to 2 billion of free cash flow generated from our communication paper business, and we believe that this kind of performance requires high asset utilization, very tight grip on costs, product portfolio, very strong global footprint, and commercial focus. And if you look at the numbers there on top, our deliveries have been declining less than the paper demand. We have reduced capacity a little bit more than our deliveries in order to adjust our capacity and run with high utilization going forward. And our fixed costs have been almost as scalable as our production capacity, while at the same time we have been keeping very high safety standards. If you go to the next page, the direction and focus of innovation in paper business, as in many other businesses, I guess in all of the businesses, is driven by digital technologies. And we are driving the innovation to improve customer experience, efficiency, safety, quality, cost reduction by digital means. However, we are not forgetting the products. We still believe that there is room for product innovation. And for example, we recently introduced UPM Pure as a niche product to better serve the market. Now, if you go to next page. Environmental sustainability is, of course, a must already, and we at UPM have a very clear, detailed action roadmap how we are doing our part in stopping the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees through 3 different streams. First, the climate positive forestry. We are acting there. We are a big forest owner in Finland and Uruguay especially. We are working on cutting emissions, especially CO2 emissions, where we have committed to cut them by 65% by 2030. And we also are introducing new products that are replacing fossil fuel-based or fossil-based products in the markets, for example, biofuels and biochemicals. Now, when it comes to the communication papers, if you go to the next page, our agenda, climate agenda, is really focusing on CO2 emissions and reduction of those, and we also have been introducing a clear roadmap how to achieve that. Naturally, the energy efficiency plays a clear role in the road, but not only that, it's also about the energy production for the mills. For Hyrt mill, we are building a biomass-based boiler. For Nordstrand mill, a CHP based on gas. Those mills are both in Germany, whereas in Finland, we recently signed a big wind power purchase agreement, physical connection to wind power that we are able to apply soon. In addition, we are in a process of considering a second wind power purchase agreement. Now, all in all, what I wanted to say is that COVID-19 had a big impact on newsprint demand, but very different impact on depending on which country we are talking about, which end use we are talking about. But nevertheless, we believe that the trend line decline will continue after some recovery after COVID is over. Newsprint is becoming even a more regional business. Supply is adapting to demand with some regional and with some company-specific differences, but at the end of the day, only profitable and sustainable supply will remain. We do have an issue with recycled paper demand supply, and also the price volatility is challenging our commitment sometimes to the business. Digitalization is driving the innovation, and the environmental sustainability is already a must, and we have a clear roadmap how to contribute to the climate change mitigation actions. And we do stay committed to paper business. With these words, Ingi, I hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Anu, for a very insightful presentation. We have several questions that have been asked by our attendees. Here is one, for instance: what do you think the future is going to be about lesser grammage? For instance, 40 or 38. Is that going to be the future?
Well, I think that we discussed this already in the morning. Currently, I have to say that the grammage topic is not very big. There are much more worries in the business than the grammage, and also I've not heard any conversation about 38 gram newsprint, standard newsprint for big time use. Yes, I would say yes, the trend is declining grammages, but this is not the main topic in the industry.
It's not the biggest question as of
No.
now. Will the newsprint paper business increase globally after COVID era? I mean, this is somewhat to ask. What will be the recycled newsprint? So basically the question here is the ratio between recycled and virgin paper, I think.
That's a good question, and of course will be dependent on where the capacity will be adjusted. And so we have seen, including, for example, Kaipola mill, we have seen quite big reductions in virgin fiber-based capacity, which is of course worrying for the recycled paper loop, as injection of virgin fiber would be needed. There actually quite a lot injection for natural reasons. But yes, will be dependent on individual companies' decision or on capacity management.
Okay, thank you. I was a bit I was thinking when you were presenting, because you showed us some images about, for instance, China and the US and Europe, etc. How is the situation down under in Australia and New Zealand? I mean, what are they? How are they coping, or what's their situation?
The demand trend is declining there as well, and
Okay.
and both of them have also been hit by the COVID and the related lockdowns.
As ours, or is the decline as steep as here, or is it similar, or have you?
I mean, the trend line decline has been like in other mature countries. When it comes to the COVID impact, to be honest, I don't have the exact figures in my mind.
Okay. Here are two. One question I wanted to hope the reduction in production capacity is due to the closure of some production plants, paper machines. Is that the case as well?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, I think the question is about are you closing mills in accordance with the paper, lesser paper being sold? I mean, that's.
Yeah. This is our principle. We are adjusting our capacity to our demand.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
I think this about sums up the questions for now, and I thank you so much again for this presentation.